This video is in response to Soul and Black's emotional vocabulary, benefits of being bilingual. First off, I just wanted to commend you for, I have 4 good points that I wanted to point out about this video. That the use of emotional vocabulary with the punchlines, and how men will not lose their masculinity if they do learn the emotional language of women, and that communicating properly is key, and you use that as an example in your trip to Mexico scenario, which I thought that these points were very much so key. To get right to it, I just wanted to say that it's very important that men as well that want to learn women's language, which is the emotional view, and it's just as important for women to learn men's language, which is the logical view, to get the most out of communicating with each other. And I myself can say that I'm still learning how to better communicate with men, as far as on the job, personal relationship, family members. And I will say that the way that I am approaching that is by putting myself in their position, because I believe that in general, not all women, but for the most part, I believe that we have a very good sense of that good intuition of getting the sense of what's affecting you. So the way that I know that we can learn how to relate better to men is by putting ourselves in that man's position to see what he might be looking at as the problem. You know, if your man is saying, well, hey, you could use a little bit better tone of voice with me or whatnot. And, if the woman's going to turn around and say, well, this is who I am, and if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. Well, instead of using that approach, because this is supposed to be somebody that you love. So instead of using that approach, and especially us black women can really work on saying, so if my tone of voice is affecting him, and that's not the message, I'm not trying to get a negative message across the board. I believe that most women will feel like that. We're not trying to get a negative message out there. We just want to be listened to or get the point across that maybe this is how something is making us feel. And we want that to be validated, because then that shows that you look at us as being special. So basically what I'm trying to say is that instead, not to get off topic, but instead of using that approach, the woman can say to herself, well, if he's saying that the tone of voice that I'm using is a little bit out of line, well, let me put myself in his shoes from a logical point of view and say, let's say I'm just going to say what I just told him to myself, and let's see how that's going to affect me, Or let's see if someone else tells me stuff the same way that I'm telling him, how is that going to affect me? And let's not use our heart and our emotions, our reaction to our emotions to think about this. We're supposed to use our minds to think about this. And for the most part, basically I just wanted to give a couple of tips, at least from my own point of view. I haven't, been around the world or lived long, but I will say that I've observed a lot of things here these last couple years, as far as it comes to personal relationships. And I just wanted to get across that most of us women, for the most part, do want our feelings to be validated. We connect better with someone who is going to say to us and show us just as well, I understand how this makes you feel. If you were to put yourself in our shoes and say, well, she's putting up with a lot of racism. Well, maybe not a whole lot, but I'm just going to say maybe she's being treated differently on the job. And her color of her skin might have something to do with it. It might not. So a woman's nature is to react to emotion. So if the guy is trying to get her into a stage of saying, well, look, reacting to emotion is not going to solve the problem. But just from a woman's point of view, emotions, and this again, well, not again, but in one of my other videos, I was mentioning how our hormone productions do affect our emotions. So because of the hormones that women's bodies produce just all across the board, we're going to be more emotional about things. And at times, those emotions can be, if you've ever felt so overwhelmed, maybe by a task that you were assigned to do on the job, and maybe you're feeling like you can't really complete it properly or in a timely manner. So you start getting that overwhelming type of feeling. Well, that's how women basically think on a regular basis when it comes to our emotions. Our emotions are usually very overwhelming to us. So, in that turn, to try and introduce some logic into that on women's point of view is going to be very harsh if you just say to them, well, look, why are you even feeling that way? Why are you even reacting like this? You're not, But yet at the same time, I want to also mention that this is a two-way stream. That if the woman is not going to communicate to her how things are affecting her so that you can get somewhat of an idea, then I would just say, and I mean, this might sound pretty harsh, but I would just say it's a complete waste of time. Because people are grown and they think for themselves. And if they're not ready to see, you put that first step into the door by trying to tell her phrases like, hey, I understand how this situation might have made you feel. And, we're not talking about a moral issue. We're not talking about a right or wrong issue. We're talking about feelings. And if she's saying to you something about her feelings, then pay attention to that and then react to that with, saying, I understand that this is how that makes you feel. But let me get my, don't tell her stuff like I'm more logical and you're just being emotional. No, you tell her stuff like, let me just enhance your way of thinking by getting some knowledge into your mind. Here, this is how you get to a solution to the problem, because once you find a solution that will help you feel better, that's going to help you feel whatever. If you've ever felt the pride that you have whenever you're accomplishing something, that feeling that you get because you've worked hard to do it is something that I think that you'd want to approach on getting across when you're talking to most women that are in a very bad situation and they're just not seeing it. And also on top of that, I also want to point out that a lot of women are experiencing depression. That women experience depression at very much so higher rates than guys do. So I also want to take that into consideration, that basically if you're dealing with somebody who might be acting overly angry, or of course that's going to make you feel like they hate you, but when you're dealing with somebody who's completely irrational, that they might be actually dealing with some depression issues. And again, yet at the same time, you have to have a balance and realize very early on if this person is willing to put the foot in the door right along with you. Because the woman has to learn man language just as well as the man has to learn woman language. Women being a little bit more logical about things is going to come up with solutions. Men understanding the emotional side and approaching it from emotional side is going to help string us women along and learn what we need to learn.